Now, on this episode of the Neil Wilkins podcast, we are going to explore a topic that is certainly fascinating me right now. It is this concept of, is marketing an art or a science? Now, a lot of people would think marketing is an art form because there's a lot of creative, a lot of communications, lots of words. But I believe as well that it is a science, and that is where we are data and evidence driven. Now, my guest on this episode is David Patrykowski. Now, David is going to be really, really interesting to talk to here on this concept of data and evidence, because he's the co-founder of Backona, which is an AI marketing analytics platform that is designed to turn data into insights. We're going to go deep into this topic because what is not to like about getting insights that are going to help you to form better, more, contextual, more nuanced decisions in your marketing and communications. So, David, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me. As you mentioned, I'm one of two founders in a company called Backona, and the main tool allows people to talk with their data, ask questions if they know what questions to ask, and convert it to insights. That's exactly how you described.
So there's a good start. I'm on the scent of a good trail here, because I'm feeling that this is something that all business people, but certainly everybody in marketing, where we're trying to get more from the resources that we have, particularly things like budget, where budgets at the moment are very, very tight. Nobody's got an extra dollar or a pound to be able to spend without really justifying it as being an investment. So data to help us decide where to go, the channels, what to spend on, what to be saying, is absolutely critical, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the marketing for the last 16, nearly 17 years, I feel you are way longer in this industry and very knowledgeable. So you probably remember how it was like 20 years ago. And it was quite simpler that people actually searched for something and then they found it, and the research was quite small and the competition was quite small as well. And when I look at this now, like the customer behavior is changing so much, jumping between channels and jumping between devices as well. Like they often start a purchase on the phone and finish on the desktop if it's an expensive purchase. And people use different browsers, different devices, iOS, and back then it was all visible, very easy in the analytics. The journey was quite straight to the point. They found us and they made a purchase. And now it's way more complicated. And this is why I feel this kind of tools and conversational analytics is a valuable thing to be interested in. As it's a lot of data to look at and a lot of insights to come up with based on the data. When I was creating the software, I did a research on LinkedIn. Quite a big number of people actually responded to that. And I was asking, what are your main challenges? That was like 2 years ago. What are your main challenges with the data? And about 70% responded that doing the reports that are valuable and actually allow us to make some actions based on the report, that's challenging. That's very, very challenging. Because the data is there, but people are scared of this sometimes. And it takes a long time to learn how to read this data. It's not like it's only one metric. It's quite a big range of different dimensions and metrics inside, let's say, Google Analytics. You need to be an expert to really see the picture behind this. Did you ever work with Google Analytics?
Yeah, and it's one of those things, I think as soon as I start to talk about Google Analytics, a lot of people either glaze over and it's like, oh yeah, well, that's all the complicated stuff. That's all the numbers. I'd much rather just be a creative, or yeah, I'm all about writing the copy and the content or speaking to customers. I do find there is quite a bit of resistance with something like Google Analytics because of this, I guess, plethora of data. I mean, there's just so many combinations of data in there. And it's almost that you feel like you need to be a scientist to be even able to understand what you're seeing in those kind of default reports, let alone go deeper, because it is really complicated, isn't it?
Yes, and this is the reason why a big number of people in our industry just use the gut feelings. And when they produce content, when they do graphics, it's more like they have their own observation based on the previous actions and try to guess what will be a valuable content, what will be a valuable campaign, and what will trigger actions, And this guessing actually results in sometimes in a good things, because you might be, when you have guess, it's like 50% chances if it's red or black in the roulette, for example. So sometimes you're gonna be right, but when you're dealing with a big amount of budget and a serious company, this 50% of mistakes can lead to a 50% of wasted budget, which often, when I looked at the data the first time, and people have agencies and professionals, there is always waste in the marketing industry, which is possible to spot. But people just tend to look away from the problem sometimes. And I don't blame them, because if you are a creative person and you do copywriting, let's say, it feels wrong to actually spend time looking at the Google Analytics. That's not your field. But on the other hand, when there is an analyst involved, there is often lack of conversation between the data guy, even between PPC people and the organic people in the marketing teams. There is often lack of communication as well and exchanging those insights. That's why the guessing is so popular. And it's better than doing nothing, on the other hand. um, yeah. And so Google Analytics is one tool that my software talks to. There are other tools like Search Console, Meta Ads, Google Ads, and even the website itself. Because what we try to do, we try to blend the data from multiple data sources to show the full journey. And for example, in Google Analytics, you often don't see when the customer signs up for like a monthly subscriptions, let's say. It's so hard to set up this revenue data inside Google Analytics. Therefore, you need to go to CRM sometimes to look at this. And we're trying to show the best picture so people can actually look at the story, look at the journey, and understand it a bit better. So that's what we do.
That's a really interesting point there. This idea of joining up the various sort of technologies, if we just call them that at this stage, because going back to the very first statement that you made, which was that people are using a lot of different channels. There's a lot of kind of complex kind of stuff going on here, isn't there? You could be really chasing your customers almost across different channels and across different platforms, trying to keep up with them, and then trying to get the engagement, trying to get their attention. And one of the biggest challenges, I'm guessing, here is this idea of not being able to see how the different channels kind of work with each other. Was that some of the thinking behind kind of the idea of having more than just Google Analytics?
Yeah, definitely. There is, especially like inside Meta Ads and Google Ads, the campaigns that grab the person back to the website, like the remarketing campaigns, they quite a big part now, like 20 years ago, it was nearly not there. But now we collect a lot of data in those pixels. And because we've got this remarketing, and when we look at how the purchase was made, we sometimes can't really tell which channel contributed in what percentage, That's why you really need to dig very deep into this. And like Google Analytics is trying to show people the data-driven attribution that gives a certain percentage of the revenue distributed across different channels if a customer had multiple touch points. The problem is when you do a report like that in there, and you, for example, change the attribution to the last click, the data looks quite similar. So I believe even Google Analytics itself have a problem with observing this, especially like on iOS, the cookies last 7 days on a normal client setup of Google Analytics. And if after 7 days someone comes back to a website, it's going to show like a new person coming to your website again. And that really makes your reports a bit not as valuable and not as clear as they should be, because the behavior is weird. How come someone can land in the basket as the first page, for example, but sometimes they use email me the basket, but it's a new person and it looks weird inside Google Analytics sometimes. So that's why we use a lot of different data sources to show better picture and not just rely on one. And sometimes I give you a good example. When you look at the meta ads, I've got a client that has about 30,000 clicks a month. But when you look at Google Analytics and Matomo, it shows only 20K clicks. So there is 10K of clicks missing. However, we've got modeling in place. Matomo is also not using cookies to collect the data. So it's not like we don't see this data because of cookie consent. It's actually Meta is reporting as the wrong data sometimes, So I deal with this kind of challenges as well. But let's not go that deep into this world, because if someone is scared of analytics, it might be a bit too much. I'm just too much involved.
That's a worry, isn't it? For your average marketer, I'll put myself into this category. Hearing that even the platforms are sometimes struggling to capture the data that we as marketers need to be using, that's a bit of a concern, isn't it, really? Because we're making potentially some big decisions here. And if the data is incomplete or it's a little bit unreliable, we're making big decisions off of stuff that could be skewing us off in the wrong direction. So that's a little bit of a concern. And I think particularly for me, and I don't want to get into this now because this is a really important thing. I think, and I put myself in this category as well, a lot of us have been asking the wrong questions, because I think what we've been doing for many, many years, I know I have, is looking at what Google Analytics puts out, say as a chart or a table, and then trying to make decisions from that. But that's actually just presenting the data, isn't it? And I think in lots of ways, I guess, is if that's the only question I ask, which is how many viewers, how much engagement, which landing pages, which exit pages, those very basic decisions are going to be kind of really very, very basic kind of answers, aren't they? So what I'm looking at here, and I'm guessing this is some of your thinking behind Backona, but correct me if I'm not right here, is that it helps us to kind of ask different questions. Is that kind of the thinking behind having a chatbot platform like Backona, where you can actually talk to it more about your business needs, and then it uses the data to come back with an answer? Because without that, I'm just feeling we're just going to get in this holding pattern as marketers of we're just using numbers, we're not really kind of analyzing them properly.
Yeah, there are actually two elements that we did in this area. The first element is with Backona, you get more answers than you asked for. So if you ask a question about a certain thing, for example, look at my all 10 campaigns on Google and tell me which one is performing best, it will highlight this campaign, but it will also educate you and add some more information about customer behavior from this campaign. And so a simple question might trigger way more information, apart of giving you the answer straight away. We also go the extra mile to keep educating people without them really, spending the energy to try to come up with the right question. And this educational part was always a big importance for me, because that's what I did with clients. Like I often sat at the table and I was translating the data. And when they asked me a question, I gave them an answer, but I also gave them extra things so they can understand it better, And the other thing is the next proposed questions. So as soon as you ask the first one, we made a feature that you can pick the next 3 questions, and they are not random questions. Those questions actually point you towards analysis that is valuable for the business. So you don't even have to be a data analyst You don't have to be a business person to see what you should be talking about with your data, because we are ready with those proposed questions. We already try to push you towards analyzing what's important for your client, for your director in the company, for the stakeholders, and that's what simplifies a lot. And I'm sometimes I notice that sometimes AI looks at the things a bit different than I am, and those questions are sometimes slightly different than what I would ask. So I'm even the end user of this, and I enjoy it. Yeah.
I'm really excited by this, David, because I think this is it's a whole new mindset. I think when we start to think of data and insights and analysis and analytics, all of these words that for a lot of marketers, particularly, but I think business people in general, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I need an analyst to kind of sort that for me. Whereas actually, what you're saying is, no, we don't. What we need to do is get into the conversation with AI through something like Backona, and actually go deeper from a strategy or maybe a tactical perspective, and really start to have a business conversation rather than a data conversation. It's almost like, let the AI do the data bit. Let's talk the business side of things. And that's a whole different conversation, isn't it?
It is, but I still see a place for data analysts, like looking at the data quality, as we mentioned before, like, Meta can show us a bit different data than it actually is, like we still need a human touch to collect this data, to set up all the tags, and automating 100% of the analysis process is a bit of a mistake because we lose so much control. And at the end, we might not even know if the insights we've got are actually based on the real data. So I believe within the next 5 years, a data analyst role in the marketing industry will be making sure that the data we collect is compliant, that the data we collect is accurate, and the setup that we use and the software that we use are best quality software for the company. And this is going to be the data analyst job. And actually converting data into insights was always very time consuming for me, and still is. I go often to Backona AI, so I'm the end user as well when I do analysis. But I still sometimes, like at the first year of the software, I was testing the quality of the answers. So I was still very often doing a second job analyzing this manually for customers. And it turns out that there is a big time difference between waiting for AI to bring you the insights and spotting patterns. Like humans are good at spotting patterns, but in the way of like looking at the pictures, for example. But when you look at the big sets of data, it's not really healthy for your brain to look at this amount of numbers and try to spot if every weekend we've got. That's why we do charts. But again, it's still, some people even don't enjoy looking at the charts because that's not very interesting creative part of doing the marketing. The creative part is psychology. The creative part is how do we make something attractive as well? How do we stand out from competitors? How well do we understand the need of the audience and the ICP? And this is the human touch that we should focus on, not really browsing through Excel and plenty of data. That was always my focus when creating this software.
I'm curious about the comment that you make there, David, which is, there's always going to be a place for a data analyst. I just kind of want to challenge that just for a minute. I mean, you may or may not be right, and we won't know until we get there. But to me, logically, if I have something like Backona, which enables me to have this conversational interaction with my data. So the AI is playing some information back, and we're talking about my strategy or my latest campaign, and it's giving me insights about what happened, but also then projections what we might do differently next time. If I have an AI agent listening to this conversation, so there's now 3 of us, and then maybe there's a 4th one, which is my compliance agent, or there's a fact checker agent that's also listening into that conversation. I could see very quickly that maybe with 3 or 4 agents kind of almost alongside me as I have my conversation with Backona, then I'm not going to need a data analyst, because these agents are going to perform these individual functions, which collectively give me everything a data analyst would be able to do as a human, but probably at a much faster pace. Do you see that happening in the medium to longer term?
I see that as a very, very big risk, because the more agents we connect and the more tools we connect, the security goes down a lot, and there is a chance of making a wrong decision, and we still need to verify this. And there is a chance that data analysts might be the end, because when you analyze data, it doesn't matter how you analyze it. If you go to like BigQuery, or you go to Looker Studio, or you go to Backona AI, in the future, you still might be the person that actually talks with the data. And I believe that may also be a case that people are gonna move from operating. Like when I do graphics, for example, now I recently connected Canva MCP to my own agent. So I'm slowly starting to query AI to make graphics for me. And I query AI to make graphics for me exactly the same way like I would do a graphic designer. And I imagine that graphic designers in future could actually do that and query the AI, because they should focus on even coming up what kind of graphics we should have. So maybe people gonna move from a bit of hands-on job to more like a management and managing those agents. So if you're gonna manage agent for the data analysis, it might be managed by data analyst at some point. Because giving away the full control, it's it, it's dangerous for like the business. The amount of mistakes can be done, and if you allow agents to even make those fixes for you later on and change those campaigns, and we're dealing with big budgets, you don't want to give away 100% of the control for Google agents to make decisions how much money you're gonna spend, because the lack of context around the entire business, they don't know how you're gonna plan to invest the money in the long run, and that's where we're still gonna need humans for the next 5, 10, 15 years, I believe. And I hope, actually, I don't want my software to replace people. I just want my software to get rid of boring things that people don't enjoy, and also get rid of one thing that's very bothering me, which is the stress in the marketing industry. Like when you run a campaign for a client, people pay you and you distribute the client budget. There is a lot of stress involved, and you don't want to make a wrong decision. And this is what same of like SEO people and people that optimize content for AI. You really want to produce a good quality things for clients, so you need to be closer to the data to bring this clarity that is needed for many of us. And yeah, that's my goal at the moment as well.
I love this idea of obviously it being a supporting kind of tool, but to me, it is just so valuable, and I will really encourage people to go and test Backona AI, because it's a really interesting, new kind of fresh way of working with your data. This whole conversational piece. I mean, my prediction, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with this or think it's a good thing, but my prediction is if we go down this conversational route, not only with data and analytics, but through a lot of the interactions we have with AI, particularly in an industry like marketing, it just becomes irresistible. It becomes something that you almost feel you have a team of these agents around you already, because it's conversational. There's something very human about conversational AI. I've certainly found it to be. So I think very quickly, probably quicker than we think, we are going to be replacing a lot of human functions with AI because of that conversational piece. And of course, Backona AI is right at the center of that, because it's driven by the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for example, I'm using a ClickUp as my CRM, and I made, for my own purposes, I made something similar to Backona AI, but to manage my own business processes and my tools. And this tool can talk to my Gmail, it can talk to ClickUp, It can talk to Google Sheets and all the Google Drive and edit the slides for me as well. So I'm quite advanced, I believe, but only just for the last few weeks. It's very fresh for me. And I still sometimes don't even know how I should use it. This tool I created. Because with MCP servers, it's like a new way of connecting API, let's say. That's like a new tech. For people that don't know a lot, you just might connect quicker to your tools with agents. Um, and at the moment, I've got, if a new lead comes in for a service, because we also do services, we are a hybrid company. If the new lead comes in, previously I had to go to ClickUp and enter this person's name and email to my system so I don't forget to follow up and put this person at the right stage. I'm a data guy, so I like to put things like puzzles, you belong there. So I put them in the CRM, but now I just enter a prompt to check this email and add me that person from that email. Plus, in the meantime, research that person on the internet, like what do they do, what's their focus, what organization they belong to, and put that in the right status as a partner or as a potential client in my CRM. And it actually takes a bit longer because you need to research, but I actually usually minimize the window and it does it in the meantime while I do something else. So I believe we're going to have also a lot of this weird, like a mini ADHD situation where a lot of things are happening in the background and you keep jumping and then coming back to what you started. I think it still happens now when people do like research with Gemini. Like you sometimes forget that you started the research and you go somewhere. Did you ever have this
Oh, I
situation?
do. Every
Um,
day, Dave, every day. I mean, it really
yeah,
is. I've got these multiple screens running, and then I have to remember what was that one. I can't even remember the question I asked it, but yeah, it's fascinating. It's a different mindset, isn't it? I think, for a lot of us, we're having to almost kind of reinvent how we think about work. I know this is quite philosophical, and we were here to talk about data and insights, but I think it's really important, the philosophy behind how we're thinking about AI, because it isn't just I've got a question, I get an output. I've got another question, I get an output. This idea of conversational means we have to enter into the relationship with the AI with a very different mindset, I think. Is that
yeah.
your take on it?
Yes, I feel, um, yeah, that's why when I made this tool, I think my mindset is still not ready to use it as I should. I sometimes go back to my old, it's a habit now. I still sometimes
Mm.
go to ClickUp and add this person. I would say I'm using 50% of the time the new tool, but I could use it 100% of the time. But this habit and this old way of doing things, I think this is a natural, slow transition that is happening. It's not like we're all gonna lose jobs tomorrow. I believe it will take 10, 20 years, and some industries and some companies will adapt faster. Um, and some of them will make mistakes when they implement AI. Like I had a few times a conversation on a mobile phone with AI of the customer service, and it was 10 times worse than having a chat with human because AI really was designed in a way, this process was designed in a way it was in a loop and couldn't answer the right question. And human can detect, oh, we are in the loop. I think I need to switch that person to someone else. Um, so we're also going to have a lot of mistakes. But this process of change, there's definitely a need for change, and people it's not going to be like you use ChatGPT for the next 10 years. It's definitely going to be different tools, but actually chatting and talking. For example, I think we are still early at the talking stage of talking with AI. And because we chat at the moment a lot. Do you talk or do you chat?
I tend to talk. I mean, if I'm sort of
Oh,
in a public space, then it will be typing. But most of the time, I'm talking. Yes, I mean that's with ChatGPT. Pretty much everything else, yeah, I'm prompting. But yeah, it's the conversational thing, and I think once you kind of find that the relationship, and I keep using this word relationship, it starts to really go to the next level because it is so human. Just the way
oh,
that you feel towards it is very human. So you go so much deeper into conversations and into topics, I find, when I'm talking about it.
Yeah, actually, when you talk, it's even more that way. I agree with you because it's there is a company called 11 Labs that is very good with like voice and how it pretends to be a human. And ChatGPT, OpenAI is also extremely good. Everybody's good now with this, and it makes breaks. It's like breathing as well and laugh. Sometimes it's so weird to hear AI laughing. Like it's definitely a psychological shift we need to. Uh, Make, but this shows that we still need human to human because AI tries to be like human. It's not like we try to adapt to keep chatting for the next 50 years and use your keyboard. It's more like we want AI to be like human because this is the kind of relationship that we've been dealing with for the entire life. And it's so pleasant when you run a business. Imagine I could talk to someone and the things I talk about as a business owner, like someone could already start making progress on those actions. Because when you talk with people on the meetings, they can't like split themselves and work and talk at the same time. And AI can actually do this kind of things. Um, um, so yeah, it's definitely gonna be quite, and I'm contributing to this tech a little bit with my software. But this is the last thing I want, really. I want people to stay in the business, and I want to talk to people. Um, but I think it's very important to stay informed what's happening, around you, just to not stay too far behind. Um, but like internet, do you remember the times that there was like a beginning of internet, um, and no one had websites? And look, we still have local shops. We've got internet, but we still have shops that are the same way made like 100 years ago. We just go to the shop, pick up the suit, you know. But the trend is going down. Like it's a very slow process, but more people go and purchase online than they did 20 years ago. Um, that's why those shops still run, some of them, but they also add this extra layer of e-commerce as well, just to stay on top of things. So it's going to be a big mix of AI people, and even questioning AI is good. Like I like when people question this. Some of my users question my software, and it feels like we still need human touch.
And
Yeah.
it is that blend, isn't it? I mean, I find myself using the word hybrid a lot of the time. So these are hybrid decisions. It's part me and part Fern, my chat GPT. If she has a name, she has an actual name. And because it's necessary, it just feels appropriate. But we're making hybrid decisions. So, she'll be looking at my data or a particular strategy, and we'll be working it through together. It's hybrid. It's not just Neil anymore. A presentation that I'll be doing to an audience, she's co-created it with me. It's not just my presentation because she's out there doing the research, finding all the evidence and the case studies that I can then talk about. So we're kind of co-creating a lot of things, a lot of decision making, a lot of prioritizing, and it's a collaboration. So I just find hybrid is really the word that kind of, to me, just sums up how my world has changed with AI. And I think certainly with the Backona kind of experience that I've had so far, and everybody, we will put the link into the description so you can go away and have a little experiment with Backona AI yourself as well. But I found, again, that feels like I'm collaborating, and it's kind of the final output from it is going to be hybrid. It's a little bit Backona, it's a little bit Neil. Is this kind of part of the dream, is that it kind of becomes almost indispensable, because that's a really important way of, I guess, viewing the interaction with AI, isn't it?
Yeah, like I believe marketing is a hard industry, and you need to make it as simple for you as possible. That's why people use tools, because they sometimes you don't need a tool that will audit your website. You can audit the website yourself, but it's more time consuming. You need more knowledge. Um, so um, yeah, I just want to simplify. And I spent, 16, 17 years in the marketing industry, and I made a lot of mistakes as well. So I know how stressful it can be. And it's like sales and marketing are usually at the top of the business needs. And there's a lot of pressure to perform as well. And if you can split this pressure with let's put some pressure on AI to perform, that's really valuable for people, to have this something that will also support you and support the goal of the entire business. Like when we do PPC ads at the moment, there is we don't decide sometimes where the ad will appear, especially within the Performance Max. You can decide a little bit, but there is a lot of decisions made by Google internal AIs. And it's good because we don't want to worry about every single little thing. We need to focus on what's important for the business. Are we getting more brand recognition? Are we getting more sales? These are the important holistic things that we should focus, not on every single detail. It's too much, you know. Um, yeah, and actually, when you said that you talk with your voice, I was thinking, oh, I need to make Backona AI talk to you, Neil. Because that's a good signal for me that this is the good direction to go. I was also thinking to make it quite more proactive, so you just get an image from it, and it analyzes your data and brings you insights even without questions. But I worried it might be a bit overwhelming to people. What's your take on this kind of? Imagine if tomorrow you get an email with, oh, we analyzed your data and we've got some insights for you. That's a good next step without you even asking. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I think there's two kind of answers here. I think one is it depends on the level of experience of the individual. I mean, if it's me, I would welcome that, a proactive AI that's serving up something because it's spotted something like. So I've got Pulse running on ChatGPT, which gives me a daily briefing every morning of various kind of topics that I'm interested in, and that's kind of proactively coming to me as almost like a news feed that I get automatically without me having to do anything. To me, it feels that Backona sort of doing that and saying, hey, we've got some really interesting, we've spotted a trend in your data. Have a look at this. Let's talk about this would be an incredible feature. Proactively sending insights into the marketer. Amazing. And then there's a but. And the but is if I'm very inexperienced, so maybe if I'm new into the role, I need probably a little bit more guidance, which is there at the moment, that education piece. So I could go in very gently and very softly and maybe explore and experiment almost as it is right now. So I personally, I wouldn't move away from that, but maybe there's an added feature, which is click this button to be, presented with proactive insights. That could be very interesting.
Yeah, thanks for this insight. I will still think how we're gonna approach this because we keep growing this, and as a startup, we are 2 years old, and it's not a very easy thing to actually go to the market with new software, especially bootstrapping without investors. And I see. Um, I see how important it is to listen to the users, and as you are one of them, like it's very valuable information for me, Um, and when it comes to like listening to users and visitors and stuff like that, this is why marketing people should be closer to data. So when they produce content, for example, they might observe a bit more if that was a good content or a bad content, and keep adjusting this. For example, I often see a neglection in terms of what are the exit pages on the website. And if you talk to agencies and the marketing directors, and you ask those questions, when was the last time you look at the exit pages? So which pages on your website triggered the exit action by a user, by a visitor? Like it's not a very common analysis to do, but it's also valuable. And people might not know this, that it's valuable to analyze. That's why I want to make it like semi-educational. And I wish, for example, there was a version of Backona AI with your approach to marketing and your methodology. Probably it will work differently than mine, but there is actually a way to change the master rules within the software. So it might be possible one day that people can set a bit different analysis style for themselves. because every industry is looking at data differently as well. Yeah.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? It really would. So,
Mhm.
so what I'm going to ask you, David, I mean, if people having sampled and experimented with Backona AI, if they have suggestions or feedback, can they contact you directly and give you some of that feedback?
Yeah, usually I'm the guy who's contacting them. I'm quite proactive. As I told you, startup is not an easy space. Um, and I'm going extra mile and I'm coming back to my users. That's why I asked you a question today, for example, but I might come back to you again at some point and look for some feedback. Because as a business, listening to people, listening to users that's why we do business, for the people. And it doesn't matter what I want within the software. That's why everybody is very welcome to try it out and come back to me with some insights, ideas. I would appreciate this a lot. It's a valuable thing.
Wonderful. That's really great. So everybody there, that you've got that invitation from David direct to the co-founder. This is a rare treat that you can actually influence the development of a very, very fascinating and really useful piece of software that I think if you try it, you are going to be convinced is going to be part of your daily use of AI. And that's certainly what I would be recommending. Have a play. It is really, really fascinating. David, it's been a really great conversation today. I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, just keep doing the good work, because I think, you really are on the cusp of something really quite special with this service.
It means a lot. Thank you. And I appreciate the podcast with you. Yeah, it was amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. And for everybody who listened, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, David.